Hello, welcome. My name is SlugMTG, and today I have a question. And this question is, how long has Chainer's Edict been dirt cheap? When I first started Magic Online, I had to get Geth's Verdict because Chainer's Edict was too much, but now Geth's Verdict is now more expensive than Chainer's Edict, and Chainer's Edict is ridiculously cheap. When did this happen? How long could I have been using Chainer's Edict? Even in my last video, Mason asked me if I had Chainer's Edict, and I said no, they're too expensive. They're not. They are. Oh man, how long could I have been? It's okay. It's okay. Because today we are going back to one of my personal favorite decks, one of my first hyper budget Pauper videos, Rat Tribal, that I have called Black Plague, only this time it's featuring way more discard. And Chainer's Edict, I might add. So one of the first things to notice is that the Typhoid Rats, my 1-drops, are gone. The 1/1 Death Touch is nice, but it was way too easy to kill, especially with Suffocating Fumes going around now. So in place, I added more discard. Obviously the cast downs are in here. And to talk about the deck overall, let's head on to Magic Online. So in case you haven't seen my first Rat Tribal video, the deck is called Black Plague, and it revolves around the common sub-theme for rats, which is hand disruption. So we aren't running any rat colonies or relentless rats. Instead, we are going with a playset of burglar rats. So burglar rats, when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. Ravenous rats does the same thing, only it's target opponent, but doesn't really matter. And of course, we are running the full playset of Chittering Rats as well. So these 12 cards really make up the bulk of our hand disruption. And I feel like despite them being 1/1s and Chittering Rats being 2/2s, they're still pretty decent because as soon as you play them, they immediately become a 1-for-1. And sure, it's the worst card in your opponent's hand at the moment, but the more you make them discard, the more you whittle down their hands, the better cards will end up in the graveyard, and we can really start outvaluing them and just hitting in for little points of damage. But this is a discard deck, so because we took out some of our 1-drops, I did put in 2 Raven's Crime, which for a single black mana, target player discards a card, and then we can cast it from our graveyard if we discard a land card. So this does a couple things. It ensures that we can keep discarding early on. It gives us a repeatable discard source, and even if we're getting mana flooded, we will still be able to at least do something. And of course, we have some of the best discard in Pauper with Okiba Gang Shinobi. This actually does a couple things for us. One, it puts a creature with 3 power down on the board, so we can kill our opponent just a little bit faster. And this does have ninjutsu, so as long as our attacker is unblocked, we can return it back to our hand and put this down on the battlefield, attacking instead. And whenever Okiba Gang Shinobi deals combat damage, that player discards 2 cards. So the amount of cards in their hand will quickly drop if Okiba Gang Shinobi actually sticks around for even 2 combat phases. And the fact that a lot of our creatures have these enter the battlefield abilities means that we will bounce them back to our hand and then play them again, forcing them to discard even more cards. Because I wanted to keep with the rat theme, another rat that we have is a rat ninja called Skull Snatcher. Once again, ninjutsu for a single black mana. And whenever Skull Snatcher deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 2 target cards from that player's graveyard. So this is really good against things like Chainer's Edict, or if we're up against a graveyard deck, we're not accelerating their strategy. Helps us fight back a little bit main board, and once again brings creatures back to our hands so we can play them again. Of course, we have the best rat in Pauper, Crypt Rats. It might seem counterintuitive to kind of wipe our own field, but we do have a couple of bigger creatures that we have that can stick, and Crypt Rats can help us deal just a little bit more damage towards the later half of the game if we just want to finish out, ping our opponent for some damage. And then for our finishers, we have Sinuous Vermin. So it is a 2/2 for 2, but it does have Monstrosity 3 for 3 black, which means that we can pay that, it becomes monstrous, it gets 3 +1/+1 counters, and as long as this is monstrous, it has menace. So it probably would be more efficient to put Gurmag Anglers in this spot, but we're keeping on theme with the rats, and it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. We do have 2 Gurmag Anglers just to help us finish out games. That was the big weakness when I was first testing this deck way back when, and Gurmag Anglers have been phenomenal. As far as card draw, we are running 4 Sign-In Bloods and 2 Read the Bones, as making our opponents discard and having us draw cards is just a great way to gain a really fast advantage and to make sure that we can actually close out the game. We are running 3 Defiles main board, the best removal spell in Pauper, I think. And we are running a single copy of Lab Rats, which is, it's an interesting card. For a single black mana, we can put a 1/1 black rat creature token down on the battlefield, although we can buy back for 4. So as long as we have 5 or more mana, and if it's come down to the late game and we don't really have much else to do, we can at least cast this every turn and put a rat into play. Has come in handy, just gives us a little bit more of a late game push. Then adding more removal, we have Cast Down, just a great card, love it. And finally, we have Chainer's Edict. It is so good to put this into a deck. I don't know when it became cheap, but I am not complaining. So that is it for the main board. Oh, I guess the mana base. We are running 2 Barren Moors, 2 Witch's Cottage, and the rest are swamps with 21 lands overall. So pretty basic, not much to talk about there. But talking about the sideboard, we are running the 4th copy of Defile, Cast Down, and 2 more copies of Chainer's Edict in the sideboard in case we do need that much more removal. We are running 4 copies of Duress as targeted removal for things against like control decks, things like that. 1 more copy of Crypt Rats against Elves, Goblins, 2 Suffocating Fumes against, once again, Elves, Goblins, 2 Nihil Spell Bombs against graveyard decks as we don't want to be accelerating their strategy, and 2 copies of Gary to help against that burn matchup. I find that burn isn't too bad as we're making them discard a lot of cards, so they tend to run out very quickly, but Gray Merchant is there just to make sure that we don't die. So that is the deck overall. It plays a lot like Mono Black Control, only obviously we go really hard into the discard sub-theme, which I think is actually very strong, given that a lot of Pauper decks rely on card advantage and generating value and stringing some plays together, and if we can actually eliminate that from our opponent, then a lot of decks tend to crumple. So with that in mind, let's hop into our first match. All right, we are into our first match. We're playing second, so that kind of stinks, but we have turn 1, turn 2, couple of removal. I think we'll keep this. So red deck, maybe not burn, at least they didn't suspend a Rift Bolt, but let's make them discard. Discarding an Ash Barrens, it doesn't tell me much, so at least it's not a mono red deck. That's what we know. Red, blue, not Scred. So they preordain. This might be one of the Is It Blitz decks. Comes back to us, so let's go ahead, let's play Ravenous Rats, make them discard again, and they get rid of an accumulated knowledge, so that kind of stinks. I really hope they don't have more in their hands, but I guess we'll find out. Firebrand Archer, so I have a Spell Slinger deck. I think the first thing we can do is swing in. They probably won't block with their Firebrands, okay, and let's make them discard again. They get rid of a Lightning Bolt, and let's go ahead, play the Swamp. I think I will Defile the Firebrand Archer, just because that's going to give them a lot of extra damage that I don't want them to have. They are down to 2 cards in hand, and they got a second Accumulated Knowledge, so they draw 2 from that. Cycle the Ash Barrens, and they pass it back to us. So I think I will go ahead and Sign in Blood ourselves. See what we draw into. Cast down Chainer's Edict. Well, if they play anything, it's dead. I guess we'll swing in for 2 and just pass turn. Cycle the Ash Barrens. Looks like they drew a couple of those. They Manamorpho, so some type of storm deck, I guess. Ponder. Yeah, discard really hurts these kind of spell slinging decks, so it's might be an okay matchup for us. Another Manamorphose and Delver. So they pass it back to us, we get a Swamp, and I think first I will attempt a Chainer's Edict, and then if they counter this, we have Cast Down. All right, cool. So let's go ahead, swing in, and then I will play Sinuous Vermin after, and we will go ahead, pass the turn. Oh, and they bolt the Sinuous Vermin, so they do not like that. They play land, they are down to 1 card in hand. We get a Defile. We are drawing all of our removal. We'll swing in for 2. I'm tempted to play the Crypt Rats here, that way we can finish them a little bit faster. Okay, so that's their last card in hand. Fire. Don't have a response for that. And we'll go ahead and play the Crypt Rats. That way we still have at least some type of clock going. Looks like they're just passing through their turn, so let's sign in blood ourselves. We can draw a couple more, and sweet, Chittering and Burglar. So that's perfect. Let's go ahead, make them discard now. Okay, so they discard Disrupt. I don't think I've seen that in Counterspell before. That's interesting. It might be a little too restrictive to run main board. And we'll swing in for 1 and just go ahead and pass turn. So they are running no cards in hands, and they ponder. We have Chittering. I will hold Chittering in my hand until they keep a card in their hand. And okay, so they go ahead, scoop it up. And what do we bring in? They're probably running Thermo Alchemist and Firebrand Archer, so we definitely want to keep the creature removal in. I don't know if we necessarily change anything here. Maybe bring in some Duress. So let's bring in the Duress and take out the Raven's Crime and I think the Skull Snatchers, as it doesn't look like they're running too many graveyard synergies. It would be nice to get rid of the accumulated knowledge, but that's all I saw. So I think if we'll bring in the Duresses, and then if they're running both accumulated knowledge and frantic inventory, I'll bring the Skull Snatchers back in. But for now, I think this will be okay. All right, and this is what our hand looks like. I think I'll keep this. We've got 2 lands, 3 rats. I'll keep this. No Duress, which kind of stinks, but oh well. Turn 1 Delver. We might actually want to Defile turn 1 instead. Play a Swamp, and we'll just get rid of that now and pass it back to them. They go ahead and Preordain. They just drop an island and pass back. Well, I don't think there's a counterspell that counters a creature for 1 blue, so go ahead and discard. They get rid of a Lightning Bolt. Interesting. I'm wondering if they are struggling for red mana. There's the first accumulated knowledge. Comes back to us. We draw a Gurmag. Let's go ahead, swing in, and then we'll go ahead and play the second Burglar Rat. Discard another Lightning Bolt. Yeah, they are really hurting for red mana, unfortunately. Hopefully they'll find it here. They chose to shuffle their library. Okay, they found an Ash Baron, so they have a mountain. They chose not to play it, though. That is interesting. However, we do not have a land to play, so we will swing in for 2, and then we will play the Ravenous Rats, making them discard again. There goes the Firebrand Archer, and we'll just go ahead and pass turn. We do have to watch out for Electrickery. There's a Delver and Thermo Alchemist. But we do get a Defile, so I think I'll swing in. If they block with a Thermo Alchemist, then we can go ahead and Defile that. So let's swing in with everything. They choose not to block. Okay. I think it'd be best to go ahead, sign in blood ourselves. Hopefully we hit a swamp. We do not. We do get a cast down though. So no swamp for us, but we do get a cast down. Unfortunately, we just have to pass turn here and hope that the Delver doesn't flip and they don't just draw 4 straight Manamorph. It flips. They draw accumulated knowledge, so this could really hurt. They swing in. They tap the Thermo Alchemist, and there goes the Manamorphose. Oh boy, we could be taking a lot of damage here. They get 2 red, so they might have, what, 2 Lightning Bolts maybe? Electrickery, okay. We get a Swamp, so we can clear their board, assuming they don't have a counterspell, which they might have that 1-cost one that I saw earlier. So which one do I want to get rid of more? I want to get rid of Thermo Alchemist more. So we'll go ahead, Defile the Thermo Alchemist, and then if they have, okay, they tap it, that's fine. And it goes through, and I'll go ahead and cast down now. I know I can do these at instant speed, but they're kind of tapped down. 2 cards in hand. I don't want them drawing into something that protects what they have. So their board is clear. There goes an accumulated knowledge. Swiftwater Cliff, so they gain a life. And they pass back. I think I'll go ahead, play the Baron more, and I think I'll Ravenous into Gurmag Angler. That seems like a good set of plays. Make them discard. They get rid of, was that Fire Ice? Yep. And let's get this Gurmag. I don't think there's really anything. I'll keep 1 creature in case I get a Witch's Cottage. Even then, I don't know if I would want to put it back, but there's that. And we'll go ahead, pass turn. 5/5 for 1 mana seems pretty good. There's a Firebrand. They have 1 card in hand. What is it? It's an accumulated knowledge. Ouch. So they preordain. They are tapped out, and we get a swamp. I think I'll go ahead, swing in for 6 here. Let's see if they do anything. They choose not to block. I'll play the swamp, and I might have to Crypt Rats for 1 here. which really stinks. I'll Crypt Rats for 2. Well, that'll put me down at 8, and they have 3. So I think I think I'll Crypt Rats for 1. Because Crypt Rats for 2 does not speed up my clock at all. So let's do 1. It'll get rid of the Firebrand Archer. And it puts me at 9 life instead of 8. So maybe that'll do something. There's a Thermo Alchemist. We get Chittering Rats. So I think the first thing to do is attack. All right, they choose not to block. They go down to 3. Unfortunately, I don't have any removal, so let's just play the Sinuous Vermin and the Chittering Rats. I played the Sinuous first, that way in case they really wanted to counter, they would counter the Sinuous Vermin. Looks like they are going to cycle the Ash Barrens. They might have wanted to do that after Chittering Rat goes off. Okay, so it's going to go off. Unless they just really want both the cards in hand. Oh boy, this could be really bad. But there's not much else we can do, so pass turn. You could lose here. They tap the Thermo. Out comes a Ponder. Please don't find anything. They shuffle their library. And we win the match. Cool. Welcome to our second game. We lost the die roll again, and no, No, I don't think we can keep that at all. And it's not great, but it is better. I don't think it's worth going down. And we are on the draw, so we'll keep this and we'll put Lab Rats back. And I think turn 1 we just want to play Baron more. Snow-covered islands, so Skred or Blue-Black Delver. There's a Ravenous Rat, so we are definitely playing the Baron more first and passing. Next turn we can Burglar Rat. Okay, so what is this? When it leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Okay, so this could be like a mono blue flicker deck maybe, but there's a swamp and we'll go ahead and play the Burglar Rat. Although I guess it does have shadow, so is this some shadow tribal? It's interesting. Okay, so it's a ninja deck then. Although, yeah, I don't think they necessarily want to be returning my creatures to my hands. That could be pretty bad for them. They swing in, has shadow, can't block. There's the Ninjutsu, Moonblade Shinobi. And so they get the 1/1 illusion. Makes my Chainer's Edict actually not that good. We do get a swamp though, so that's cool. So I think we'll swing in. If they choose to block here, then we will Chainer's Edict. They choose not to. So we will play the swamp, and let's make them discard. And let's make them discard again. They get rid of the counter spell. That's what I like to see. Next, they get rid of the Fairy Seer. So I think we'll pass turn. They swing in with both. Is it worth... They're probably not ninjutsuing that. I don't think it's worth losing my Ravenous Rats quite yet. Am I swinging in with it? I think I am swinging in with it. I've got cast down. Okay, so they choose not to ninjutsu. There's the Seer again. And there's another Seer. So Crypt Rats here is really good. Instead, we get cast down, which isn't bad. So I think we'll go ahead, swing in with both of these. Choose not to block, and let's go ahead, cast down that Moonblade Shinobi while they are tapped out. And just go ahead and pass turn. Not much else we can do. Chainer's Edict is looking a little weak here, and no ninjas this turn. Crypt Rats. Chittering Rats, okay. I think Chittering Rats, no, because I can't block anything that they have, so they've got the faster clock. If I cast down the Seer, that just gives them a card. Well, we're definitely swinging in. All right, so now what? I think let's Chittering Rats this turn. It speeds up our clock. We're not dead yet, and it guarantees that they don't hit a ninja next turn unless they have a counterspell. Okay, so they let it resolve. Not much else we can do. Let's just pass turn. Hopefully we will draw a swamp next turn, and we can both cast down and Chainer's Edict. They probably do have a counterspell in hand, though. Cannot block. We will go down to 5. And we get a Chainer's Edict. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's much we can do here. I guess we'll swing in and cast down one of the illusions, maybe? I want to do that now before they draw another card, because they're down to 2. Although if they do ninjutsu, then I am dead. So I guess we'll wait. We'll wait to do it on their end step. Looks like they drew a land. So they attack. Let's go. Yep, this is fine. And cast down one of the illusions. That way they don't draw a card. And maybe we can do something next turn. And what do we get? A swamp. Okay. That does not save us. They swing in for 4. They go down to 7. Again, Chainer's Edict twice. Even if I do that, they still have 1 creature that I cannot block. So, well, it's at least something. So let's play the lands, swing in. And if they have a counterspell, then we just lose because we need both of these to go off. And we need them to not hit a counterspell or a ninja. All right, yeah, they sacrifice both the seers. So we need definitely some luck here. Okay, yep, that's just game. All right, so they get the spell stutter. Definitely want to bring in the Crypt Rats. Definitely want the Suffocating Fumes. I don't think Duress is that great because they seem to be very creature heavy. So I think we'll get rid of the Skull Snatchers. They don't seem to be doing much with their graveyard. And I think it kind of hurts, but I'll get rid of 1 Chainer's Edict as they're going to be swarming the field and it's our weakest removal spell. And we're bringing in 3 removal spells. So let's run it back like that. I would love to play first. We're finally on the play. Is it bad that I'm actually tempted to keep this? I don't think I can though, because I turn 1 Raven's Crime, turn 2 cycle a Barrenmoor into hopefully something. Although if I continue to get mana flooded, I can keep making them discard, although they are blue, so they're going to be drawing a lot of cards. And if I keep discarding cards, I can power out a Gurmag very early. This is a risky keep, but I'm going to keep it. So let's make them discard a land. They play a Fairy Miscreant. Comes back to us. We draw a Ravenous Rat, so that works out for us. Play the Ravenous, make them discard. They discard another land. They must have a lot of lands. And they have Mantle of Tides. Okay, they swing in for 1. We draw a Swamp. Okay, so play the Swamp. Definitely want to cycle the Barrenmoor, see what we get. Another Ravenous Rat, so that's what we'll be doing this turn. We'll swing in for 1. And we'll go ahead and play the Ravenous Rats. Piracy Charm. Okay, so they use that to kill the rat. The ability still goes off, though, so it's kind of a 2-for-1 for me. And that just means I can get my Gurmag out next turn. We get rid of the Moonblade Shinobi, which is fine by me. And we'll just go ahead and pass turn. They only have 2 cards left in hand, so doing pretty well. No Ninja, though. They do have 2 mana up, though, so probably a counterspell. I think we'll go ahead, swing in, and I will play land and then try to resolve a Crypt Rats. I'm kind of baiting a counterspell here, and it sticks, so I will hold up Defile, and then next turn we can Gurmag. They draw a land. Okay, they of 1 mines. Do I want to Defile this? I probably do. Let's just Defile that, and not much else we can do, so comes back to us. Okiba Gang. Oh, that is actually really good. I love that. Yes, okay. So let's swing in. And we will return the Ravenous Rats, and we will make them discard 2. And get rid of the Fairy Miscreant and Spell Stutter Sprites. That's really good for us. Piracy Charm again. Get rid of the Crypt Rats, that's fine. They don't have much to be doing right now anyway. And we can go ahead, swing in, get rid of their last card in hand, which was the ninja that we all know. And let's go ahead and cast that Gurmag Angler. And we'll leave the Raven's Crime in there just in case. We'll pass turn. They play a Preordain. If they leave a card in hand, then we'll go ahead and Burglar Rat. But nope, there is the Seer and a Suffocating Fume. So let's go ahead and swing in. I'm assuming they'll block. Okay, and let's begin sideboarding. So that was a much better round this time around. I don't know. I think I did okay as far as sideboarding goes. I don't know if there's really anything I want to bring in. I think we just run it back. We have Burglar, Sign in Blood, 4 lands. I'm hoping I don't regret this, but I will keep it. It's a little slow. They go ahead and Preordain. We draw a Sinuous Vermin, so that's not bad. But drop a Swamp, pass turn. They go ahead and play Fairy Seer, and a second Fairy Seer. Comes back to us, we get a Raven's Crime. Would have liked to have that last turn, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and play the Burglar Rat, and get rid of a Snap, so that's good. Pass it back to them, and what do they do? Swing in for 2. I'm assuming we'll be seeing a Ninja here. Okay, so it's the Familiar Ninja and the of 1 Mind. This is actually a really interesting deck they're playing. I do kind of like it. I think we'll go ahead, swing in, and I am tempted to actually play the Sinuous here, because then it can actually threaten the Ninja of the Deep Hours. But I think instead, I'll make them discard 2 cards here. So let's play the Burglar Rat. to get rid of Island, and I'll make them Raven's Crime to get rid of another card. And we will go ahead, block the Ninja so they don't draw another card. And then next turn, we'll play the Chittering Rats. There's the Fairy Seer again. That's the only one they attack with. Okay, well, we'll block that, keep them from drawing more cards. And they play Of One Mind and Preordain. And there's a Crypt Rats. That is exactly what we want. My only concern, though, is the Piracy Charm. That's going to be my biggest concern. Let's play a Witch's Cottage. I actually don't think we use this. No. And instead, I will play the Chittering Rats and make them put a card back on top. And if they want to trade with... I think I will swing in with a Burglar Rat. And if they want to trade, that is perfectly fine by me. So... they didn't swing and they didn't block with the Fairy Seer, so not quite sure what they're doing, and I'll bluff like we have a kill spell. So they only swing with one. This could mean that they do have a Ninja. Nope. There's a Seer, and comes back to us. There's a Baron Moor. I will play that. I do want to wait for them to completely tap out before I play the Crypt Rats. So let's go ahead, Sign in Blood ourselves, because Crypt Rats... I have enough lands to put it down and then activate it for 2, but I want to actually make sure to get that off, because once I do that, I'm probably going to win. I should not have said that, but it's looking likely that I will be in a good position to close out the match, and I'm actually tempted to Sign in Blood again, although I probably shouldn't. I'll probably just, let's swing in with the, if I swing in with Chittering, though, they might counter my Sinuous Vermin. I think I still have to, though. I want to be in a more aggressive spot, so they choose not to block, even with their Seer there. And let's play the Sinuous. Spell Stutter Sprite, okay. That's not optimal, but we can still block the Ninja, so that's fine. And hopefully that means they don't have things for next turn. Full swing, we will block the Ninja. And they have another Ninja returning the Seer. They have 2 Ninjas, oh no. But they tap out, which means we can kill everything here. So this isn't great, but... oh, do they only have 1 Ninja? I could have sworn I saw 2 activations, but okay. We get a Lab Rats. So I think what I have to do here is play the Crypt Rats. And just go ahead. Do I pop it now? I think I might not pop it now. I'm trying to think of something that they could have to get rid of the Crypt Rats or like nullify its effect. I don't think they have anything that can do that. Although I also don't want them to Of One Mind for 1 mana, so I might just do it now. In their hand, they have, we know 2 of the cards in their hand, which is a Spell Stutter Sprite and the Seer, or that Wizard guy that when it leaves, draw a card. I'm just going to say that we don't pop Crypt Rats yet. We just kind of hold it. They'll most likely full swing here, force me to pop it. Yeah, so we'll kill everything. There's a Seer. And that's all they play. We get Cast Down. My biggest concern now is playing the Gurmag and having the Gurmag get countered, because I don't necessarily have any other plays. I think I will Sign in Blood here. I go down to 6, which is really low, but it might give me a couple more options. I could Ravenous here, so let's Ravenous, make them discard a Seer, and I think, honestly, let's go for the Gurmag. I will keep the Crypt Rats in there in case we get the second Witch's Cottage. Does this resolve? Okay, it looks like it will resolve. And we'll go ahead and pass turn. Next turn, we can Suffocating Fumes. They swing in both. They ninjutsu. They have another ninja. They've gotten 3 of their 4 ninjas. And they have the Shinobi. Shinobi is not going to be too bad. They are completely tapped out, so hopefully I draw something good here. I'm not worried about that. Okiba Gang. Okiba Gang isn't going to be enough. Let's see. I Suffocating Fumes and Cast Down. So that's going to be 5 mana. I think I have to leave the Gurmag back, swing in with the Ravenous, because if they have a Piracy Charm, and I think I have to leave their Moonblade Shinobi. I want to get rid of their Ninja, and the Suffocating Fumes will kill both of these. I think I have to Suffocating Fumes now, although they do have a Spell Stutter Sprite in hand. They have at least 1. So I think I have to Suffocating Fumes now, leave both of these back as blockers. I don't think I will Suffocating Fumes now. If they play another fairy, because they only have 1 fairy down, Suffocating Fume costs 3. So if we can try it at their end step. If they have 2 Spell Stutter Sprites, then we can cast down something in response to make sure the Suffocating Fume goes off. And I think we just pass turn here. Mantle of Tides, that's fine. Preordain. Okay, so let's go ahead, Suffocating Fumes now. That way they can't attach the Mantle of Tides to one of their 1/1s, and I don't want them finding a counterspell. They put it on the Ninja, that's fine. And they should not be swinging in here. Correct. The Seer, that's going to be horrible. And they keep the Spell Stutter Sprite in hand. We get a Swamp. That's actually really bad. Yeah, this is really hard. I think I have to play the Lab Rats as a normal, just for another blocker in case they get a Piracy Charm. And then I think... I know they have a Spell Stutter Sprite. They probably don't have a Counterspell. I think I have to cast down this turn just to make sure they don't get a Counterspell. Otherwise, I am dead. So I think I have to cast down that now. Because if they draw a Counterspell, I am dead. Although it doesn't matter because they have a Spell Stutter Sprite anyway. So yeah, that's game. I don't think, yeah. So that's it. Good match. I really like their deck though. That was very interesting. Oh, I'll type that. Welcome to the third match where we actually win the die roll. Can we keep this? I love the Okiba gang. We just need one more land to pull that off. We have turn 1 discard, turn 2 cast down. I think I will keep this. It's gonna be awkward playing the Baronmoor. I might just play the Baronmoor first, and if they don't have a creature, then I'll just Raven's Crime turn 2 into turn 3 Chittering. They are currently mulliganing. Oh, they go all the way down to 4. Yikes. So I think I'll play the Baronmoor first. Definitely do not want to be mulliganing against a discard deck. They play a Jungle Hollow. So Golgari. It might be Tortured Existence. You get a Sinuous Vermin. Nothing to cast down, but we will Raven's Crime them. They get rid of Putrid Leech. So I guess it's like Golgari mid-range. Bajuka Bog. Okay, so yeah, they don't want me doing Raven's Crime anymore. We get a Sign in Blood. Let's make them put a card back on top, and we'll pass turn. There's a Safehold Elite with Persist. Unfortunately, we haven't drawn a land, but let's see. Do I swing in? I think I do swing in. We're so many resources up on them that 1-for-1ing is actually very advantageous because we have so many cards. We have Sign in Blood in hand. We have things we can do. So I'll swing in for 2. Let's see how they react. All right, they will block, and Persist is fine. Comes back as the 1/1. We will play the Burglar Rat, make them discard, go down to 1 card in hand. They discard the Chainer's Edict, and we will pass turn. They play Track Down, and they grab a Forest using that. So that's pretty good. For us, at least. And they choose not to attack. We do draw a Swamp. I think the best course of action, let's swing in. If they block, then we trade, and I will cast a Sign in Blood into a Sinuous. If they don't block, I will cast the Okiba and make them discard the last card in their hand. They don't block, all right. And we'll just go ahead and F6. And what is their last card in hand? Echoing Decay. Yeah, I could see why they wanted to keep that. Wirewood Herald. When it dies, search for an elf. Okay, so this is another interesting deck we're up against. And a Golgari elf mid-range. I think what will happen though is we'll swing in. If they double block, I will defile 1. Okay, so they will double block. Let's defile 1 of them, and then we'll kill that one. They will search for an elf, and then we'll make them discard that elf. Yeah, they're not going to keep that. This is the part of the thing. This is where I start to feel really mean. But okay, yeah, that was very good for us. So they're kind of running. I'm not quite sure what they're running. It's kind of interesting. Once again, unfortunately, the Skull Snatchers that just don't seem to be doing all that much for us. So instead of the Skull Snatchers, I think I will grab another Defile and Cast Down. And then maybe instead of 1 Read the Bones, I think a Crypt Rats will do well. Just to help control the battlefield. They are very creature reliant, so board wipe seems pretty good. I think I will keep this. Turn 1 Baronmoor, turn 2 Burglar, Ravenet, yeah. Hopefully we will draw more lands. I mean, we're running 21 of them, we should. Oh, Duress. Can they actually take any? They're going to take the Defile, darn it. I'm surprised they sideboarded in the Duress, given that they saw that we were mainly creatures, I think. But we'll go ahead and play the Baronmoor. Pass turn. And they just put down a Swamp and pass. Okay. In that case, we will make them discard. They get rid of Safehold Elite, which is perfectly fine. That guy's annoying. Chainer's Edict. Okay. Chainer's Edict for a Ravenous Rat seems pretty good, at least for us. We'll play a Burglar Rat, make them discard more. Looks like we are both stuck on 2 lands at the moment, and they get rid of a Wirewood Herald. I cannot talk today. Another Chainer's Edict, okay. We draw a Burglar Rat. Let's make them discard again. Get rid of another Safehold Elites. And do they have another Chainer's Edict? They don't, okay. Let's go ahead and swing in. We do draw a land, so I will be Chittering. Swing in for 1. Play the Swamp and the Chittering. So they have to put a card back. They choose to cast down. That's fine. Still go, and they go ahead and scoop it up. There are our 3 matches, and I think that's enough to where we can go ahead and talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the deck. Overall, I think leaning much harder into the discard strategy helps out a lot, since a lot of our creatures are very weak. I mean, they're just 1/1s or 2/2s, and grabbing for any type of advantage we can and making our opponent run out of cards way faster than we do is really good. And I feel like the biggest strength of the deck is with all of our discard creatures. If they then remove the creature, as we saw in what happened in the last game, they are 2-for-1ing themselves, as they have to discard and then spend another card to get rid of it. The biggest weakness of the deck is definitely consistent card draw, whereas if the opponent lands like a Bonder's Ornament, or I guess is just playing blue, then we can struggle to get rid of the cards in their hands and make them run out of resources, as they can just continue drawing more, refill back their hand, and all of a sudden our 1/1s aren't looking too good anymore. This is a very fun deck. It comes down just under 3 ticks online, just under $25 in paper, and overall I do like the changes that I made. It is very mean though, so if you're playing this online, I think it's fine. If you're playing this in person, you might get some very angry responses from people, especially if the match ends up turning out like that last one where they just get incredibly unlucky with their opening hands, have to mull all the way down to 4, and we just make them repeatedly discard, and then in the second match we just make them repeatedly discard. But that is what the deck is designed to do. It is designed to 2-for-1 our opponents, make them spend 2 cards to get rid of our 1 card until we have a big enough advantage that we can close out the game, land a Gurmag Angler, monstrous a Sinuous Vermin, and go for the win. As far as upgrades, I think this might just be a crappy version of Mono Black Control, so if you're looking for direct upgrades, then you might just want to do Mono Black Control, but honestly this deck has its own upsides to it that Mono Black Control does not, leaning so hard into the discard. We can fight not creature-based decks so much easier, as I find with just regular Mono Black Control, if you're up against, say, blue-black creatureless, then Mono Black Control just really doesn't have anything, because the entire deck is just built around clearing the battlefield, whereas this one, we can make them discard, put down these threats, force a 2-for-1, and gradually grind out value. I am very much enjoying the second copy of Okiba Gang, as now we hit it much more often as just the single copy in my previous deck. Okiba Gang is so good. It's often just a game finisher later on in the game once we have them down to just a couple cards. Play the Okiba, they're completely out. So I think the deck's pretty good. Definitely good for a budget deck. Definitely not tier 1, but I think this deck sits comfortably at maybe a tier 2. You can definitely take some games off of some very powerful decks, but it's not quite consistent enough, as there's just not really that much good discard in Pauper. So having a discard Rat Tribal deck is mainly you're playing this for fun, at least for you to have fun, definitely not your opponent. But the strengths from the 2-for-1s, running your opponent out of resources, resources. Yeah, do not underestimate the power of that. We do fare better against aggro decks than hard control for this very reason, as aggro decks tend not to run much, if any, card draw at all versus control decks, which they tend to draw a lot of cards. I would recommend this deck. It's a lot of fun. Just don't play it against me. I don't want to play against it. I've yet to play against it, and I don't want to play against it. I feel so mean. So that's going to be it for today's episode of Hyper Budget Pauper. Did something a little different, went back to an older deck, tuned it up a little bit, and I think it's a lot better. If there's anything that you would do differently, just say so in the comments. Any horrible misplays you rolled your eyes at, let me know in the comments. But honestly, this is probably my favorite deck that I've built so far. I really do like it. I mean, it's Rat Tribal that actually functions for the most part and is decently good. What's not to love? But anyways, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. I really do appreciate it. But now, if you'll excuse me, I'm about to run the Pied Piper out of a job. Bye.